Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from KAYTRANADA Timeless. The weird thing about KAYTRANADA's collab album Kaytramine last year was the lingering feeling that not only did the production let Amine down, but it might be revealing of issues that I have been overlooking with KAYTRANADA's production on previous albums. So in preparation for the upcoming album this year, I went back, I re-listened to both 99.9% and Bubba, and, well, sadly I was half right, and it reflects some observations that I actually made when I reviewed Bubba back in late 2019. Because the odd thing with KAYTRANADA's production is that in his own self-contained context, the eccentricities and the synth tones and the percussion, they really pop off. They show a lot more variance. They set up really potent vibes. But if the immersion of those vibes fractures at all, be it on an overlong project or placed in contrast with expectations of greater color or flair, you might wind up underwhelmed or deflated. But hey, it wasn't KAYTRANADA's fault that Bubba's run of dance crews was short-circuited by the lockdowns early the following year, and given the stacked list of collaborators this time, I really wanted Timeless to work for me. And the odd thing is that, well, for the most part it does. It feels less than ever like it's because of KAYTRANADA's production and more because of the stacked array of guest stars that's on display. And what's so odd is that you can tell that KAYTRANADA opens up the album with the 70s string sample and the watery keyboards and the rickety cymbal against the roiling bass, where it seems like he's trying to set up a more layered throwback to opulent 70s disco or 80s R&B, actually pay off the album's title. But as we get deeper into the album, it feels like a patchy, awkwardly sequenced feint before he's right back to the spare, wavy bass grooves, the brittle, chalky percussion, and the off-kilter keys. And it's not a bad formula, but it feels increasingly cool and colorless and oddly mixed. Like how on Dance 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 and Seemingly, I really like the samples, but the huge bass will swallow up everything and the drums feel weirdly canned. And since, once again, the lyrics barely feel like they matter, a blur between some tentative and largely missed dance floor connections and a distinctly catty edge if you pay attention, the guests, they provide the majority of the flair. And I'm sorry, that's not how 99.9% felt so effective and colorful in the production. Fonte excluded. I can give KAYTRANADA a lot of points for calling up a stacked roster of R&B acts that you should know better. I like the two Rochelle Jordan and the two Channel Trace features here, even if the fragmented compression around Drip Sweat feels kind of egregious. And the sandy groove of More Than a Little Bit with Tinashe, it eventually grew on me. But let's ask the question, are these artists really flattered or pushed into more interesting or textured spaces? Or just given something that feels increasingly stock from KAYTRANADA, who could do this in his sleep? Cause look, I like that hazy blues guitar behind Don Toliver on Feel Away, or the woodwinds and textured percussion with Don Richard on Hold On, or the cascading pianos around the glassy cymbals around Charlotte Day Wilson on Still, even if that track kind of feels like a fragment. But those songs also feel like the exceptions, not the rule. And of course it's cool when Durand Bernarr brings on the funk on Weird, or the 1-2 punch of Sir with Anderson Paak, and then Childish Gambino stealing the show with the kooky synth-driven Do To Me, and then the hazy disco of Witchy. But the latter two songs are also buried so deeply in the track list that was already running long before we then get a 4-song second disc tacked on. And it might have Channel Trace swagger on Stuntin, and Mariah the Scientist is truly trying on the closing track, which is actually a repackaged song from her project last year in a mix that's doing her no favors. But KAYTRANADA also can't flatter Pink Pantheress's unique fluttery strengths, and then gives us a Thundercat feature that's a lot less funny than it thinks it is. I don't know, it's exasperating that I can appreciate some meta context of this album that's constantly flirting with more intriguing ideas or diversions, but the execution should feel a lot more interesting than it is, where length and slapdash sequencing don't help the formula to the point that it almost feels like a compilation, even if on groove alone, I like a lot of this. And that's the sticking point. KAYTRANADA has locked down the formula in dance-ready R&B that works. You could call it timeless. It just feels a lot less colorful and fun than it should be, where some of the old magic just doesn't feel like it's there. For me, I'd say pick your favorites. I probably have enough to make a killer EP out of this. There is tangible quality, but this is a late night vibe that might not live up to its title. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, and subscribe. I know, folks, that I probably was not engaging with this properly or fully appreciated all the vibes, but let's be real, KAYTRANADA's done better, and even if there's a lot of stuff I like here, it's just not as it's not as special as I know he can be, and that kind of drove me off the wall a bit. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to help support the channel or just argue with me on my Discord, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times, just the options available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.